Hey friends, welcome back. In today's video, we're going to take a look at lesson 28 homework for Eureka. All right, let's get started. All right, so we're going to here we have our homework. The first one says to create and solve a division story problem about 7 feet of rope that is modeled by the tape diagram below. All right, so they're telling us that it's rope. So they're giving us some parameters, so like some idea, but you can make it anything, really. You know, Ben had 7 Pokemon cupcakes, whatever it is, but they're telling us rope, so let's stick with rope. My original thought was Ben, I just picked a random name, a friend of mine. Ben had 7 feet of rope. And he wanted to, what did he want to do? So usually with word problems, there's like an action that you're doing that he wanted to share with his friend. How many pieces will there be to share? That's my question. How many pieces will there be to share? I mean, you can come up with any of your own ideas for this, something different. Doesn't really matter. The goal is, can you figure out a word problem that makes sense with this context? So if I were to go ahead and solve that, it says, so I do have to solve it, right? So I'm going to take 7. And what did I do to that 7? Right? I thought of the halves. They don't show you that this is 1, right? In the Eureka, remember they do those dots to show you like there's a bunch in between. If you aren't sure about this, you can draw it out. Like you can do the tape diagram. It would have to be a little bit of a longer one, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's my 7, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And all they're doing is splitting them all in half. They just didn't show us all of the in between. They showed us the first one, and then the last one, part of 1. All right. So if I took 7 and I looked at halves, how many halves? And let's say I went ahead and, did it all. I'd go 2, 4, 6, all the way up to, yes, you got it, 14 halves. So you have 14 halves. Again, they're not looking at the size of the fraction. They're just asking how many of those pieces do you have? You've got 14. And that's it. All right. Number 2. Let's take a look at number 2. It says, again, create a story problem about 1/3 a pound of flour that is modeled by the tape diagram below. I changed it up, and I'm going to change it up now. I said neon slime. So I'm going to make mine a little bit different because I wanted it to be fun. My son is really into this YouTuber called Salish. So that's what I made my word problem based off of. And I hope I'm spelling her name right. Salish had 1/3 of her neon slime. My son loves slime. I don't know about you all. Left over that she wanted to share. All right. So the action is that she's trying to share it with how many people? With her 2 friends. So again, my clue is share because I'm not saying give. I'm not giving it, or rather, Salish isn't giving it away, right? She's sharing it with her 2 friends. How much slime? I'll write it over here. Slime will all 4 get? Right? So how much slime? Sorry, it's 3. Will all 3 get? All right. My fraction was thirds, so make sure you write that as 3. So this time I'm starting with my 1/3. And what we're doing to that 1/3 is splitting it even more. we're splitting it with and sharing it amongst 3 people. If I were to do the same thing here, I've got 3, 6, 9. How many pieces, right, would I have? 9, but I'm looking at the original, like 1/9. Each gets 1/9. Because if I split these, there's my 1/9. There we go. That's it. The next part on page 218 in your books goes a little bit faster. This one we get to just solve. You can do the tape diagram and solve it. The big thing is, what am I starting at? Am I starting with a whole or am I starting with a fraction? Let's get started. With my whole, I'm going to draw my tape diagram. I have 2, right? And I'm splitting these into fourths. I'll do it with a different color so that you can kind of see. I'm going to split these into fourths. So I always split down the middle when they're even numbers and then split those, right? So I've got 2 split into fourths. How many do I have? In all, I've got 8, right? Because I've started with my whole. Now I'm looking at how many pieces. I've got 8 pieces. All right. Next one is 1/4 divided by 2. Well, this one, unlike the one before, I'm going to model that I have 1 here, but that 1, really, I'm looking just at the 1/4. And I'm splitting that 4th into 2. We can divide them all, right? So 1/4 divided by 2. Now all my new pieces are worth 1 add up 2, 4, 6, 8. So we've got 1/8 now. Instead of, unlike before where we had 8 total, the difference is, where are we starting? Are we starting with a whole or are we starting with a fraction? Okay, because we're starting with a fraction and we're splitting it more and more and more, your number is going to get smaller. If you're starting with a whole number and then you're looking at the pieces that you can make, that number is going to get bigger. All right, let's do this next one. So we've got 1/3 times 5th. What do you notice? We're starting with a fraction. So I'm going to draw my fraction. I'm going to draw my whole first, and then my thirds. So I'm looking at this 1/3 section. What are we doing to our thirds? We are dividing it by 5. Yes. So I'm going to add 4 lines. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, don't be worried that your lines aren't perfect. It's okay. Just as long as you have like a visible spot there. So I took 1/3 and I split it into 5 sections. Now I'm just looking at this one last section down here. So I've got 1. Out of how many do I have? Skip count. 5, 10, 15. 1/15. There's your answer. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, always circle your answers. Teachers love it. All right. All right, my friends, last one, D. We're going to take a look. Again, yep, you saw it. I know you're noticing that pattern now. We're looking at and starting with 3 wholes, right? 3. We're looking at it a whole. Now, this is where it starts to get tricky, where instead of drawing all these, you're going to want to start using those expressions and equations. Since it's asking us to draw a tape diagram, go ahead and just draw it. But I've got 3 divided by tenths, right? So I'm going to draw 5 going this way. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to split it this way. So each now has 10, 20, 30. So I've got 3 divided by 1/10 is 30. 30 in all of them. All right, my friends. So they're asking you for word problems. So you can, kind of follow the same pattern that you did on this first page, where you started with a whole and you split those, and then here you started with a fraction. So it could be like, I started with 2 pizzas or 2 cupcakes and I wanted to split it with 4 people. How many slices were there? Or you can say I had 1/4 of a cake for my birthday or 1/4 of a cup of sugar left over and I needed to share it with 2 people. So just think of situations where you would start, like what might I have in real life that would end up as a third? Maybe like a chocolate bar. Or what could I have 3 of? Oh, I had 3 I don't know, something that you really like. 3 bags. I really like sour candy. So 3 bags of Sour Punch straws. Those things are addicting. So I'm going to take my 3 bags of Sour Punch straws and share it with 10 people. I wouldn't share it. I would eat it all. But let's just say for the sake of my word problem, that's what I would write. So the big thing for these things is to just think like, what would I do in the real world that could kind of help me put some of a situation to these numbers and these diagrams. All right, my friends, that is homework, Eureka lesson 28. If this was helpful and you liked it, go ahead and press that like button and subscribe for more. And next one will be lesson 29. See you later.